What's going on? This is Zach Adelstein here with DFS Army, and today we're going to be going over the Week Zero night DK slate for college football. I'm so excited that football's back. It's been a long 8 months. We're not getting the same high quality games we got at the end of last season with that championship game and Alabama, Michigan, even that Cincinnati team. We are getting some nice games. This night slate, to me, it's a little bit more stable than the regular slate, than the main slate. Not as many FCS teams, not UConn, who's just absolutely awful. But there's still a lot of edges to find. Um, there's a lot of question marks trying to figure out exactly what's going on everywhere. And yeah, let's jump on in and go through it. So first of all, let's go over to the quarterback position. Um, I think they're pretty well priced for what it is. There's a lot of question marks here. Start at the top. You have Reynolds, who's over at Charlotte. He's been there, I think, 2.5 years now. He's been their starter. Um, he is a runner when he needs to be. Last year, I think he was a little bit hurt. They held him up. He's capable of getting in the end zone, though. I think he had 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games on the ground last year. He'll air it out, and this game's supposed to be close. It's a conference game, Florida Atlantic. They tend to stay close. It's a touchdown spread. I think it's kind of a nice place and a nice play. At 8K, he's not too expensive. He's not over the top. And the quarterback options, this whole slate is just kind of interesting. There's not a ton of options that are just over the top must play. Going on down the list, Drake May was just named the starter over at UNC. I actually really like that play. They get a Florida A&M team that's an FCS team that can put up some points, but also gives up a ton of points. I think UNC is going to want to see what they have in Drake May. They had him last year, but they're going to let him try to go, let him try to grow. He also has the best player on the field, probably the best player on the slate to play with Josh Downs. And he can use his legs. Last year, he had a game with, I think, 4 carries for 38 yards. He can scramble. He can get you points that way. And, he's basically a mid-price guy on most slates. So I really don't hate that play. Biggest downside with May is that we might lose him um, somewhere in the game with a blowout. They're going to go to their backups. They're going to sit everybody and just get a move on it, which kind of does hurt his value here. Kosi Perry is also one of, I think, the top quarterback plays on this slate. He's a very boomer bust. There are weeks he's going to get you 5 or 10 points. He also is going to get you 25 points on a lot of weeks. They seemed to shut him down last year, didn't let him run as much, and I'm hoping they do here. He had 24 DK points last year against Charlotte, had a nice game there, and I think he will here again too. Um, he can air it out. He's got some nice runners behind him, but also he's not afraid to scramble, and that's something that really helps. Um, Under him's kind of some question marks, some places you want to go. I'm fading the Hawaii quarterbacks. They won't name a starter, and I just don't trust this team really. Maybe some ancillary pieces. Try to go some places, down the line, but I don't trust Schrager. I don't trust Yellen. I don't know if they know who they're going to play. I do think they'll air it out a lot, but could they go 14 for 50? Sure. Um, Same thing with Criswell. Maybe if you want a shot in the dark, you might get a half a play here if they pull all of their starters, but not something I want to do. Mike Wright's interesting for me. I don't think you're playing Mike Wright to play Mike Wright. You're playing Mike Wright to play against Hawaii. This Hawaii defense is a team that lost. It is returning 2 starters. I think they officially had 12 starters last year, and they're returning 2 of 12. Lost 10 starters. They don't return their, I believe, the lowest returning production team in the past 5 years overall. They could be good. I don't think they'll be good. They weren't very good last year on defense either, and they're returning even less. This is a team that just didn't want to play football. They even said they lost their will to play football over the summer and over in January when they lost their last head coach. Austin On is an interesting guy. He actually turns 29 on September 6th, I believe. He originally committed to TCU back in 2012, then went on to play baseball for the Yankees organization, and now is back here starting. He has some upside. They let him use his legs sometimes around the goal line as well, but he just, he's iffy. These are both teams that like to run the ball, UTEP and UNT, and I don't know if he's somebody that I really want to lean on. That being said, he's at a decent price, and I don't hate it. Same thing with Hardison. Hardison lost his 2 top receivers. Cowing went over to Arizona, and Justin Garrett graduated. But I do think that he has some value here in some tournaments. We're gonna have to find some value some places on this slate. There's not a ton at some of the other positions that is very safe, and Hardison could get you 15, 20 points here. This is a game that's supposed to be a 1 point spread, has a 1 point spread or pick, depending on where you look. It's a nice game to shoot out. It could also be a 24-21 game, but I like this, as a salary saver down here. Let's go over now to running back. Over at running back, it's kind of hard because there isn't a ton of value and the prices are just too high a lot of places. Um, Nevada and Toatawa, he had a good team last year, caught some passes, could run the ball, but this is a team that lost almost everybody. Their coach and a lot of their production either went to, Carson Strong went to the NFL, and then everybody went to Colorado State. He's going to have some runs. He gets a nice matchup with Mexico State, who does not have a good defense at all. But at 7,600, it's hard to just plug him in and play blindly. Um, this is a game I think they will win. This is a game I think he could have, a touchdown or two, but I don't know. I don't know how good this team is going to be losing so much production. Johnny Ford's too expensive for me. I do like him as a player. I think he, has talent and could go off, but he wasn't named starter. They said they want to get him the ball some, so I do think this will be a split. But at 7,300, if you're not a starter, I just can't play you. Parson over here for Hawaii. I do think they're going to try to get him the ball. I think they'll try to get in space, but is this a team that's going to throw the ball 50 times? Is it a team that's going to, they will target him. He might get 4 or 5 targets, which would help his value. But at 6,700, I want a lot more than that Hawaii offense is going to give me. So, it's hard for me to pay up there. North Carolina running back room is interesting to me. They did name DJ Jones starter. He's the guy basically that comes back with the most experience, but he didn't have a ton last year. And he's the oldest guy there. They have a lot of freshmen coming in. I do think he'll get first crack with the starters, which is a good thing against an FCS team. But that being said, does he get 8 or 10 carries, or does he get more than that? And for 6,400, it's hard to pay up for that. So for me, I'm going to have some of him, but I'm not going to just go all in on him. Moving on down the line, the UTEP 1-2 punch of Awatt and Hakens, which we come down here a little bit more mid-price guys. There's someone I'll watch. They are not anyone I would play together. They're going to feed off of each other. They're going to vulture each other. But I do think they both have value. One of them could go off. I think I'm going to make a rule in our domination station not to have either of them together. But I do want them in maybe 15, 20% of lineups each. They're nice value plays, especially Hankins down here under 5K. We need value on this slate, as we'll see when we get to wide receiver. And it's someone that really can go off. If he falls in for a couple touchdowns, he could break the slate. Same thing with UNT running back. So the UNT running back room has 4 guys with oars next to their name. The top 2 on those lines are Attaway and Ragsdale. Attaway was a top running back a few years ago, was doing really well. I think he hurt his hand, and then last year he tore his ACL before the season started. He's back, and according to camp reports, he's doing great. He's playing well. He's getting coaches' praise. He's getting some passes and some passes down in the flat underneath, and really doing well. Ragsdale was the starter last year, and by the end of the season, and really ended the season well. He had 19 DK points in 3 of the last 4 games, and was really leaned upon at the end of last year. I think they're good tournament pieces. Again, I don't want them together. I want them separate just to see where they go and see how it goes. But that is something that we definitely will have pieces of here at that price. The last places I want to look are a little bit lower. So Lenny McCammon was named starter over at Florida Atlantic. Last year, he was part of a committee, but he really didn't get a ton of carries. He got 3 or 4 carries a week and didn't do too much with them. If they're going to lean on him at 3,400, I will gladly plug him in, use him as a value piece, put him in and see how he does. Just plug him in there. The last real value piece I really want to look at is a min price guy who is right here, who is Hampton, who is coming in, Amarian Hampton for North Carolina. He was the number 11 running back recruit last year, top recruit in the state of North Carolina, and has just been getting tons of praise. They've named him a true freak in camp. They've said how great he's going to be. I could see him really having a breakout year this year. I think he is going to have some breakout game eventually, and why not be here against Florida A&M, an FCS school? Um, he's going to get some run here, I am sure, and at min price, I'm going to have some pieces of him. So let's go over to the wide receiver rankings. These are a lot tighter price than I really like. So we're just going to go down and look at them. Josh Downs is the top play on the slate. I think almost every slate he plays on, he's going to be a top play. He had 8 receptions or more in all but one game last year, and he had over 100 receptions and was number 3 in targets in all of college football last year. He's going to get fed even with a new quarterback. I'm not too worried about him. The Charlotte receivers of Tucker and Dubose are both up there for targets. They're both going to get a decent amount of catches. But I actually prefer Dubose to Tucker, even though they're priced like this. He really came on at the end of last year. I think he's actually fine in catch or in GPPs. They're going to have to air it out here to keep up with Florida Atlantic, and I really like what they're doing over there. Um, Over at UNT, again, this isn't a team that is going to throw the ball a lot, but Roderick Burns was the top receiver last year, and this game should be close, and it could be something that shoots out. Again, it's a 1 point spread, it's a pick 'em game, and this is a player that could get some run. He is too expensive for me. I hate that price for him, but I think he is a piece that you can stack in some GPPs and some mass multi entries. Um, Vandy wide receivers, but there's not a ton that you really like there. Will Shepard had some decent games, had some upside, also had some games with 1 catch for 3 yards. So you have to know that going in. He's too expensive, but again, on this slate, they priced up the wide receivers. He's someone you can consider and someone you could possibly stack with right if you really want to go that way for a few lineups. I would not do that if you're playing one lineup. Another wide receiver that is kind of like a gadget wide receiver that they like to get out in space is Wester over at FAU. They try to get him the ball. They want to get him in. They want to do as much with him as they can. He's a little bit too pricey for me, but I do think they're going to try to get him the ball, and I think he's fine to stack with Nkosi Perry if you think he's going to air it out a little bit more. One of my favorite plays on this slate is Tyron Smith right here for UTEP. At 6,100, I think he's too cheap. He was the number 3 wide receiver last year for UTEP behind Cowing, who is now at Arizona, and Justin Garrett, who graduated. Cowing was one of the top receivers in the country last year at 1,300 yards. Had a great connection with the whole offense, and especially with Hardison at quarterback. And I think Tyron Smith is going to step into that role. He's going to be a deep guy. He's going to have several targets. And at 6,100, he is one of the best price players, I think, on this slate. If you want to get into the Hawaii offense, one place you can go is Zion Bowens. He is by far the clear number 1 receiver here and should be getting plenty of targets. Again, he's a guy that could get 10 targets and 2 of them could be catchable. So you have to know that going in. But I do think he's going to get a decent amount of targets. Beyond this, there is not a ton of wide receivers here to dig into. I'm going to continue digging in and look at things. I don't love this Nevada passing game. I don't trust a lot with it right now. I want to see it before I believe it and think they're going to run the ball first and then figure out how that passing game is going to work. There is one guy I really want to look at who is pretty cheap here and want to point out, and that is Xavier Smith. Xavier Smith for Florida A&M had some huge games last year. If you come and look at his game log last year, you can see he was very consistent with his production, made some big plays, has touchdowns regularly. You can even come down here to a game against USF. A group of 5 school, 31.9 points. Had 15 receptions. They're going to pepper him. They're just going to keep throwing him the ball here. We need salary savings on this slate to pay up for Josh Downs, to pay up for those top price quarterbacks. At least somewhere we're going to have to pay down, and I think Xavier Smith could be a place to really pay down. So that's where we are today. I'm really excited for the season to get started. I hope to see you all in Discord. Come and join DFS Army today and be a part of the fun. We're going to win a lot this year. We're going to do some great things, and we can't wait for all of our members to enjoy all of our benefits. All right, we'll be back with you soon.